America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome, it is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one this evening, and we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Including some sad news coming out of Washington, D.C. I want to get you the latest on the shooting of 2 National Guardsmen. There were earlier reports that came out from the governor, the West Virginia governor, Patrick Morrisey, who first said that both of those National Guard troops were killed. He's later said he has been receiving conflicting reports about their condition. The good news is the FBI director, Kash Patel, has now said that the 2 West Virginia National Guardsmen were wounded in a shooting Wednesday near the White House, remain in critical condition, correcting that earlier report from the governor of West Virginia about his National Guardsmen that had been deployed there to Washington, D.C. I want to give you a timeline of events so you understand how all this went down. About 2:15 Eastern time this afternoon, gunfire erupted near the corner of 17th and I Street Northwest, near the Farragut West metro station. That is a metro station that I got off every day when I was going to the White House back when the Bush administration. So you understand just how close that is. Many that work at the White House, this is their metro stop that they get out of. That is when the suspect ambush began. Moments later, 2 National Guard members were struck, the shooter opening fire, then is himself shot and subdued by National Guard personnel and others. 3 o'clock, police and other federal law enforcement arrived. Suspect was in custody and the scene was secured. Within hours, reports emerged about the condition of the victims, conflicting initial statements about fatalities. But by evening, officials now say the 2 guardsmen were critically wounded and hospitalized. We had a brief ground stop that was issued for DCA, that's Reagan National Airport, because of security concerns. Flights were later allowed to resume there. The administration has responded, making it very clear they are not going to back down from protecting Americans in our nation's capital. And they have now officially requested an additional 500 National Guard troops to be sent to Washington, D.C. Investigators from multiple agencies, including the FBI, local police, marshals, are all joined, in this joint investigation. Now, victims, we've been told, remain in critical condition. The suspect is in custody. The motive at this moment remains unclear and under investigation. The White House and nearby government buildings went into lockdown, then reopened under security pass restrictions. So that is the lay of the land as we have it right now. The guardsmen have been hospitalized, and the shooting comes after Trump extended the deployment orders for Washington, D.C. I want you to hear what FBI Director Kash Patel had to say at a press conference on this, because I think it's important that you hear from him. Again, there's been conflicting information, and the good news I can report to you right now is that what we're being told is that the guardsmen are in critical condition but are alive. That is much different than the report we received earlier on. Here is the FBI Director, Kash Patel, saying this not long ago.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kash Patel, FBI Director. We're here to brief you on the tragic events that happened today at approximately 2:15 local time in Washington, D.C., where 2 of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition. As you can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice. Since this is an assault on a federal law enforcement officer, this will be treated at the federal level as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. The FBI will lead out on that mission with our interagency partners, to include the Department of Homeland Security, Secret Service, ATF, DEA, and we're thankful for the mayor's assistance in this matter, the Metropolitan Police Department and their skills in investigating homicides and gun shootings in this city is exceptional. We will work together collaboratively because this is a matter of national security, because this is a matter of pride. President Trump has been informed. We've been in contact with the White House. We will shortchange the American public with no resources to make sure we find and safeguard our nation's capital right here in Washington, D.C., and bring anyone responsible for this heinous act of violence to justice. I would lastly like to add to the American public and the world, please send your prayers to those brave warriors who are in critical condition and their families. They are here serving our country. They are here protecting everyday Americans and citizens around the world in our nation's capital. They are the heroes of this day, and we must remember them on this day and every day, and their families and the sacrifice they have made. I will now turn it over to Chief Carroll of the Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you.
Kash Patel there again saying they are in critical condition right now, and that the thoughts and prayers of all Americans and those around the world. The president also putting out a very clear statement saying this on Truth Social. The animal that shot the two National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded and now in two separate hospitals, is also severely wounded, but regardless will pay a very steep price. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people. I, as President of the United States, and everyone associated with the office of the presidency, am with you. The President of the United States of America making it very clear there, they are not backing down and going to continue the mission. The politics of this already playing out, unfortunately, on television, as we are seeing more and more on the left play the political gamesmanship here. The D.C. mayor saying this about the shooting as well. Listen to what she said.
I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C., and I, too, want to send my thoughts and prayers to the families of the guardsmen and to the guardsmen who are in critical condition in a local hospital. I am joined by members and leadership from the D.C. National Guard, from the West Virginia National Guard, United States Secret Service, Deputy Mayor Pia, Fire Chief Donnelly, and Metro's General Manager Randy Clark. And we join with the FBI Director in ensuring that MPD investigates, the U.S. Attorney prosecutes this case to the fullest extent of the law. I've had the opportunity to brief U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was speaking to the president when I called, as well as the United States Attorney Pirro, who assured me that this case will have her office's complete attention.
Mayor. D.C. Mayor Bowser saying that as well. That's not all. Secretary Hegseth, the man in charge of the Pentagon, saying this. Take a listen.
Very productive meetings, but I want to start by saying after those meetings, myself and my team were notified that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C., critically wounded. The shooter shot in a cowardly, dastardly act targeting the best of America, heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C., serve for people they don't know and they've never met because they love their country and their capital and their community. They were willing to do dangerous things others were not because they love their fellow Americans. Someone decided to turn that into targeting National Guardsmen. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down. President Trump will never back down. That's why the American people elected him. America and our warriors, our National Guardsmen, are strong. And so we're following this very closely. We're getting information rapidly. I mentioned the faith of this country, the Christian faith, the prayers. I would ask for prayers for our National Guardsmen.
Excuse me, Mr. P.
Appeals to heaven for our National Guardsmen, for their families, on bended knee as a War Department, as a nation.
Excuse me.
We will never back down.
Excuse
me. Think about them right now.
Venezuela.
We had a couple of great, productive meetings with the president.
All right, I'm going to jump back in here. The Secretary Hegseth on the D.C. shooting. The shooter shot in a cowardly, dastardly act targeting the best of America there. I want to get your phone calls in here. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. As we know now, there is not a known motive. We do not have a name of the shooter yet, and we do know that there are two National Guardsmen from West Virginia that are in critical condition at two different hospitals after shooting by the White House. The suspect has been shot as well, in custody, and they have gone back to only badges. Security badges are allowed into the White House facilities and others around there. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Ben Ferguson filling in for Mark Levin. A lot more coming up right after this.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. It is nice to have you with us. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one on this Thanksgiving Eve. All right, I want to talk to you about a very concerning poll that came out, and it's something that you need to be very, 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 very well aware of. This is, I think, truly shocking, what I'm about to tell you. The majority of likely voters under the age of 40 say they want to see Democratic Socialists win, not the next local election, win the next presidential election. I have warned about this for a long time, that if you want to change an entire generation, the way that you do it is actually pretty easy. You just go after the youngest generation. And when you go after the youngest generation, this is what actually ends up happening. You end up going after and changing the hearts and minds of one generation that can change the entire future of a country, of a nation. A majority now of likely voters under the age of 40. And think about where the 40-year-olds have been. They've been indoctrinated in our colleges, indoctrinated in our public schools, in our high schools, in our middle schools. It's a lot of schools that Democrats completely own. We know about the anti-Semitism on college campuses. We know about the anti-conservative, anti-family, anti-traditional values, anti-Jewish in general. But this is part of the reason why you see countries like China flooding our public universities with money. Literally billions and billions and billions of dollars. Why are so many foreign nations, our adversaries, funding our colleges so that they can turn Americans against our democracy? I've been warning about this and telling you that the Democratic Party and the Socialists and the Communists and Marxists have been playing the long game. Now they're seeing the fruits of their labor pay off. They've got Mamdani in New York. They just elected another socialist in another major city, a week ago? And now you have the majority of likely voters. Okay, now likely means people that are actually going to vote. So early on, you may say, well, Ben, they're polling people under 40. How many of them are actually going to vote? Well, this is the reason why this poll is really concerning. It is of likely voters under the age of 40 say they want to see a, quote, Democratic socialist. What does that mean? It means a socialist. Okay, it's a socialist. Win the next presidential election. And this is coming from a legitimate poll, Rasmussen polling. This should terrify every one of you listening to me. The survey asked respondents, likely voters under the age of 40, quote, the next presidential election is in 2028. Would you like to see a Democratic Socialist candidate win, not just be on the ballot, but win, win the 2028 presidential election? Across the board, 51% said yes, that they would like to see a Democratic Socialist win the 28 presidential election. Only 32% of those 40 and under said no. 17%, this is also very concerning, remain quote-unquote unsure. Now, predictably, opinions are sharply divided on party lines. That's good news. 82% of Democrats under 40 said they would like to see a Democratic Socialist win the 2028 presidential election. So I've been warning and saying this for years. The Democratic Party is dead. The Democratic Party is masquerading as a Democratic Party when really it's filled with socialists, communists, and Marxists. The socialists, the communists, and the Marxists have taken over the Democratic Party. They understood that the American people weren't ready to just straight up say, yeah, I'm a socialist. Voters weren't at a point where they were ready to say, yeah, I'm a socialist, or yes, I'm a communist, or yes, I'm a Marxist. So they lie and they say they're still Democrats. We all know that's not true. They are not Democrats. And the polling now clearly shows that. Now, in certain areas of the country, you don't have to lie anymore. New York City is a great example of this. Now, they still use the word Democrat, right? Because then it softens what they actually are. Is Mamdani a Democrat or a socialist? He's a socialist. Is he a Democratic Socialist? No. That's a way to blend the two together so it doesn't seem as harsh, okay? It's like saying, bless her heart before you then rip somebody a new one. It's God bless them, but that person's an idiot. It's a way to just chill out and kind of soften the blow of just straight up socialism. You look at these numbers, 82% of Democrats under the age of 40 say that they are in favor of not just a socialist, but want them to win the presidential election. That is a number that's going to rise. It will not go down. It's going to go up. Now, how did we get here? This is all about making people believe, first and foremost, that America is somehow not a great country, that somehow America is evil, that somehow America stole something from somebody, and that the system is rigged. This is class warfare where the rich get richer and the poor are poor, and therefore you should be against, people making great money and incredible success in America. You turn anyone that's successful into a bad person. And that's how you get to where we are right now. On the other side of this, we're Republicans. I'm going to tell you that coming up next. Plus, your phone calls in here as well. 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. Also, don't forget, grab my podcast. I'd love to keep up with you there. It is the Ben Ferguson Podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, I do it every day. And if you want to send me a note during the break, you can send me a note on X, Ben Ferguson Show on X. Send me your comments. I'll read them all during the break. More after this.
We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/LEVIN heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, America's mentor of conservatism. Call now at 877-381-3811.
Welcome back. It is Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for Mark, and I hope you're having a fabulous day wherever you are around the country. If you just joined us, talking about a new survey that should scare the hell out of all of you, and that is among likely voters under the age of 40. A survey asked respondents, who do you want the next presidential candidate to be? Would you like to see a Democratic Socialist candidate win the 2028 presidential election? Across the board, the majority of likely voters, 51%, said yes, they would like to see a socialist win the 2028 presidential election. Now let's talk about the Republican side of this. 65% of Republicans under 40 said they do not want to see that, compared to 24% who actually do, and 11% who remain, quote unquote, unsure. Okay, that scares me more than the Democratic side, because what that means is that the plan to indoctrinate conservative kids on college campuses has had an effect. They may come out and say, hey, I'm not a liberal Democrat, all right? But I'm not a hardcore GOP MAGA conservative either. And if you have 24% of those under the age of 40 who identify as a Republican, who say they're in favor of having a Democratic Socialist win the 2028 presidential election, and 11% that remain unsure, and only 40%, excuse me, let me rephrase that, only 65% of Republicans under 40 say they do not want to see a socialist in the White House in 2028. That should scare you. Now, I'm going to break it down even further. Why? If you are a Republican and you're under 40 and 24% of Republicans say they're fine with a Democratic Socialist winning the White House, what that really means is they're probably not going to vote for a Republican candidate. They're probably going to vote for a Democrat. As this voting bloc gets older, and gets the older voting bloc gets, more participation you have on election day. There has been a lot of conservatives for years, and I warned about this on the Bush campaign back in 2004. There was this thing called MTV Vote or Die, Rock the Vote. You had John Kerry that was really using celebrities and young people to win the election and to try to give him the victory there. And it was concerning for us, but there were some that just kind of like, look, young people don't vote. I'm not worried about it. So we don't have to worry about this rock the vote. They're going to vote. The ones that do vote are going to vote 3-1 liberal over conservative. We know that, but there's not enough of them to really make a difference now. And here's what I'm saying. That is changing, and changing quickly. It also tells you about a real trend by Democrats, by the socialists, communists, and Marxists to recruit young minds, and they're changing those minds. What's also interesting is independent voters are usually the way the presidency goes, right? So if they feel like the country's on the right track, independent voters will usually stick with you. And if the majority of Americans, or I should say independents, believe that the economy is stagnant, or they're not being listened to, or prices are getting too high, there's a long list of different things. They will usually, independents will go the opposite of the party that is in power. Well, let me tell you where independents are in this breakdown. Independents are pretty divided. 37% say they would like a Democratic Socialist to win the 28 presidential election, followed by 32% who remain unsure and 31% who said no. What is the takeaway from that? What worries me is we just had Donald Trump win a presidential election, and the majority of people under the age of 40 are now saying we don't even want a Democrat, right? Which is normally what it is, that you would say you'd want to go to if you don't like the guy that's currently in office that is a Republican. You'd be like, oh, I want a Democrat. No. They're saying we'd like to skip over that. We don't care about Democrats. We want a socialist. Among Democrats that are among independents, they're saying the same thing. Now, let's talk about influence. When asked who has influenced them the most to support democratic socialism, which is socialism, over a quarter of respondents, 27%, said something that scares me even more. They said it was, quote, a parent. So 27% of under 40 who say, why are you supporting a democratic socialist, say it's coming from their parents. What does that mean? It means that this is also paying dividends in this country with a grand divide over what we see is the best path for our future. There are a lot of parents who are lazy, who want government handout and government cheese and government everything to take care of all their problems. And they're indoctrinating their kids to believe the same thing. That should concern you even more than any of the other data I've given you so far tonight. That 27% of respondents said it was a parent who inspired them to be a socialist. 17% said online videos or podcasts are why they are now democratic socialists. 10% said it was books, and 7% who said a grandparent. So what are we learning from that? Democrats doing a better job controlling the classrooms. They're doing a better job of controlling the algorithms and what you see online. They're doing a better job of getting this out on podcasts. In other words, they're doing a better job of going to where the under 40 crowd is to then indoctrinate them to believe that capitalism is a good thing and capitalism is somehow evil. They're doing a better job of saying to these individuals that are 40 and under that you need a government to be your baby's daddy. You need the government to be your parent. You want to know how insignificant digital news publications and print publications like magazines and newspapers have become? Only 6% of respondents attributed their support for socialism to print or digital news publications. 5%, even lower, for television shows. 5% to a church leader. And 4% to a teacher in college or high school. So Democrats have done a great job, and socialists and communists and Marxists, of finding the under 40 crowd where they are. It's clearly not in church. It's not necessarily in higher education. It is in the schools below that, and it is on social media, online videos, podcasts, and then the most influential where they're getting it from is the parents of the under 40 crowd who they say are socialists. 27% of those saying they want to be a socialist leader because of their parents. Now, a plurality of Democrats and Republicans who support democratic socialism also attribute the influence not only to their parents. The highest percentage of independents, 18%, said it was books. So independent voters that read a little bit more, they may seek a little more information or knowledge before they, quote, make a decision. Now, you may ask yourself this question. Well, was this a bad poll? I will tell you, based on the polling data, it's not. The survey was about 1,500 U.S. likely voters between the ages of 18 and 39. It was conducted October 31st and November the 2nd, and it has a margin of error of plus or minus 3%. The survey follows the rise of Muslim socialist Mamdani, the mayor-elect in New York City, who has pushed radical ideas, including city-owned grocery stores, on the people there. He's also suggested that mental health experts should respond to crimes rather than police. In fact, he's been in favor of abolishing the police. This also comes as Democratic infighting has become more prominent, where Democrats are not okay with their leaders, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. And they want socialists, they want communists, they want Marxists to lead their party. So this is a massive fight that we are witnessing right now. It is a fight that is one that we should all be concerned. And it's one where we're going to have to decide at some point, when are we going to start fighting for the hearts and minds of young people? We used to dismiss them. We have dismissed them for way too long. When you don't give them attention, when you don't talk to the younger generation, they grow up, they become voters, and those voters can destroy everything you built. You have to understand, this is just, 10 months, 11 months removed, 12 months removed from people voting for Donald Trump? Basically a year now since Election Day. It has been 11 months since he was sworn into office. And now this red wave of socialism and communism are coming at us at a rate. I've been saying it. I warned you over and over and over and over again. This was coming. This was happening. It was real. It is significant. And we are witnessing it right here. And it is something that I mean this when I say this. Wake up. Pay attention. You better start fighting to protect your kids in public schools, in private schools. You better start having conversations about what they're learning at college. If you're paying for it, if they're living under your roof, you better get involved. Because the Democratic Party is coming after the hearts and the minds of Democrats. Let me just say that one more time because I think it's important. The Democratic Party is coming after the hearts and the minds of young people. And they're playing the game to win long term. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. Don't forget, you can send me your comments on X, Ben Ferguson Show. If you're on Instagram, we put up a lot of the audio clips on there at Ben Ferguson Podcast. And grab my podcast, the Ben Ferguson Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts as well. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. And we want to get some of your phone calls in here. 1-877-381-3811. Also, if you can't get through or maybe you don't have time to call, but you're just a little shy and you want to send a comment, you can do it. You can send it on X, at Ben Ferguson Show on X, on Instagram, Facebook as well. You can put in Ben Ferguson or Ben Ferguson Podcast on Instagram, and you can send your comments there as well. All right. Winning never gets old. I think we can all agree on that, especially when it's moral victories that are really important. And one of those big victories was a gift for Thanksgiving. A Georgia judge has dismissed the election interference case against President Donald Trump and his allies. In a simple one-page order, the Superior Court judge McAfee dismissed the racketeering case first brought by the Fulton County District Attorney, you'll remember her name, that activist radical Fani Willis, more than 2 years ago. Willis had already been disqualified from prosecuting Trump and 14 of his allies for attempting, she claimed, to interfere with the 2020 election in Georgia. Willis was removed over an appearance of impropriety created by a romantic relationship with a special prosecutor that she chose to lead the case. Judge McAfee agreed to kill the probe after the executive director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia took over the case from Willis last month, filed a petition saying the alleged criminal conduct amounted to more of a federal, not a state case. It was unlikely that legal action against Trump could have moved forward while he was the president, but 14 other defendants still face charges, including former New York mayor and Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani and former White House chief of staff Mark Meadows. Steve Sadow, Trump's lead attorney in Georgia, applauded the case's dismissal, saying this: the political persecution of President Trump by disqualified DA Fani Willis is finally over. This case should never have been brought. A fair and impartial prosecutor has put an end to this lawfare. Now, after the Georgia Supreme Court in September declined to hear Willis's appeal of her disqualification, it fell to the prosecuting attorney's counsel to find a new prosecutor. That is when they appointed the new person. And last month, he reached out to several prosecutors, but they all declined to take on the case. McAfee set a November 14th deadline for the appointment of a new prosecutor. So, the man in charge chose to appoint himself rather than allow the case to be dismissed right away. Now, this new prosecutor said Willis's office had only recently delivered the case file, 101 boxes, and an 8-terabyte hard drive. That's a lot of data. And he hadn't had a chance to review everything yet. Citing the public's legitimate interest in the outcome of this case, he said he wanted to assess the evidence and decide on the appropriate next steps. He also is an individual who has led the small nonpartisan council since 2018 and said in a court filing last month that he got no extra pay for the case, but the Fulton County will reimburse expenses. Now, he previously spent about 25 years as the elected Republican district attorney for a county out of Judicial Circuit, southwest of Atlanta. Willis, as you may remember, announced a sprawling indictment against Trump and 18 others in August of 2023, using the state's anti-racketeering law to allege a wide-ranging conspiracy to illegally overturn Trump's narrow loss to Democrat Joe Biden in Georgia. Now, defense attorneys sought Willis's removal after one revealed in January of 2024 that Willis, in fact, had a romantic relationship with Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor she hired to lead the case. The defense attorneys alleged a conflict of interest and said Willis profited from the case when Wade used his earnings to pay for lavish vacations that the pair took together. Now, during an extraordinary hearing the following month, Willis and Wade testified about the intimate details of their relationship. They said the romance didn't begin until after Wade was hired and that they split the costs for vacations and other outings, if you actually believe them. The judge rebuked Willis for a tremendous lapse in judgment, but found no disqualifying conflict of interest, ruling she could stay on the case if Wade resigned, which he did hours later. Defense attorneys appealed, and the Georgia Court of Appeals removed Willis from the case in December of last year, citing an appearance of impropriety. The state Supreme Court declined to hear Willis's appeal, which brought us to where we are today. The question now is what will happen next to others that have been attacked politically by this case, and what will the president do from the White House? I say that to say pay attention and watch closely. It could be very, very interesting moving forward. 1-877-381-3811, 1-877-381-3811. We'll get some of your phone calls in here. We've got a lot more to talk about, but good news for the President of the United States of America on this insane case in Georgia. We'll be right back. Don't forget, you can follow me on X during the break and send me your comments at Ben Ferguson Show. Also, if you're on Instagram, it's a little different, Ben Ferguson Podcast. And you can grab my podcast as well. We'll be right back.
This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hour 2, Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. It is so nice to have you with us. And I want to get you a quick update on the shooting that took place in Washington, D.C. There are a lot that is happening right now, and I think it's pretty clear this is a targeted political terrorist attack. That is my opinion based on the information that we're getting right now. John Miller on the D.C. shooting, saying this, even on CNN, about the shooting of the 2 National Guardsmen that are in critical condition as we speak. Take a listen.
Show coming up right here. The Source with Caitlin Collins, 9 o'clock Eastern tonight. Thank you. Also with me, CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller. So, John, when we look at what we do know in this hour, what are you hearing from your sources about where this investigation stands, especially when we're dealing with a suspect who is not cooperating?
Well, right now they've assigned it to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force in the Washington field office of the FBI. They are taking the lead and working in parallel with the D.C. Metro Police, who obviously have a homicide case. But because of the construct of the D.C. justice system, both of them operate in the federal courts, so they will be working together. The FBI is aware of the identity of the gunman. They know who he is, or at least who they believe he is.
So wait, can I stop you there, John? Because that's new, right? So the FBI is now telling you, your sources are telling you that the FBI now believe that they have identified the suspect.
Yes, they believe that they have his identity, and that starts a large number of wheels turning. He's not from the Washington, D.C. area, so as was discussed earlier in the show, you know, they're looking at, okay, how did he get here? How long ago did he travel? What was the purpose of the trip? Was this the purpose of the trip? And digging into his background.
Absolutely. So there will be that part of it, right? And as we've discussed, there are a few cities probably that have...
There's 2 things here that I want to bring up from what John Miller said. Number one, the FBI, they're now saying, is aware of the identity of the gunman. They know who he is. The other thing is, what has been the climate that could have made this actually happen? You had this video that came out, and it was a video that showed members of Congress telling law enforcement or telling men and women in uniform to disobey orders from the President of the United States of America. Could that have incited someone to go after men and women in uniform by implying that somehow what they're doing is unlawful? The answer is yes. The demonizing, dehumanizing of law enforcement who have been put out there like these National Guardmen, could that be part of it as well? Absolutely. And the idea that somehow this just happened randomly, no, it did not just happen randomly. We also have our first words from the President of the United States of America on this. Here's what he had to say.
Thank you, Kelly. Let's go to you now because you are with the president. We saw his post on social media. Are we expecting any formal remarks from him in the wake of this shooting?
We don't have any indication of that at this time, but typically when there is an incident of national proportions, it is certainly within the realm of possibility that the president may wish to speak on camera. We will keep you updated as we learn more if that's even being considered. The president used immediately his social media platform in order to communicate and to provide some of the early specific details about this, which indicates that he's been getting briefed at Mar-a-Lago, which the White House had told us, and he has a secure facility at his home here in Florida that allows him to have secure conversations when there is highly sensitive information. This kind of a situation is probably one where the president has been working the phones and getting information from his advisors. And clearly the president has put a great deal of his own political capital into the idea of trying to bring safety to Washington, D.C. and beautification and other parts of what he is trying to do in his second term. Gary talked about the president saying that there are no longer murders in the district and crime doesn't exist anymore. That is not accurate, but there has been a reduction in crime. And clearly, this is a painful example about how crime and violence can take place at any time. The president, of course, is the one responsible for bringing the National Guard into the district. That was a concept that he believed strongly in to augment the local police. Did so with some support from the mayor, Muriel Bowser. Of course, the District of Columbia, different than states. The president's also wanted to go into Illinois and other places where local officials have not welcomed that. With the district, it's a different relationship because it is not a state. Clearly, the president has a lot invested in this. West Virginia, where these two National Guardsmen are from, according to the governor there, Governor Morrissey, is a place where President Trump has had overwhelming support in his elections and has a strong connection to the people of West Virginia. That's another dimension of this as well for the president to deal with. As we also indicated, the vice president is on the road today providing holiday support for members of the military at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. And his information was a little behind at the time when he spoke earlier, where he was wishing recovery for these two National Guardsmen. Sadly, we now know both of them passed away from their injuries here. The vice president, of course, connecting with service members today as a part of a project to acknowledge the holiday and to show support for them. So all of these things connect back together. The urgency of trying to find motive and circumstances on the ground in Washington, and then the larger political implications of all of this, of what it means for the president's plans for D.C. and other cities. Sinclair?
So you hear it there. We're getting new information that's just come in there. You could hear about the loss of life. We also are being now told that we know more about the shooter. So I'm going to tell you what I have just been told as you were listening to that. We are now, again, and this is coming to me as I'm reading this and getting more information, but my sources are now telling me that the shooter was an Afghan national. That is also being reported now by major news outlets, where they're saying that that this was an Afghan national that was the shooter, and this will be investigated, it looks like, as a terrorist attack, is what we're now being told about this. The FBI, quote, will initially investigate the shooting as a possible act of terrorism. That is what two senior U.S. law enforcement officials have now confirmed. The official said the suspect, who is alleged to have used a handgun, has been initially identified as an Afghan national. Law enforcement officials are still trying to confirm all of the person's details, they said. A motive has not been determined or made public yet, and the nature of the investigation, they say, obviously could change. Now, that's coming from just moments ago. I just want you to understand that. We are also getting a new updated briefing on this as well, and I'm going to let you hear as the mayor of D.C., this is what was said moments ago.
Some prayers to the families of the guardsmen and to the guardsmen who are in critical condition in a local hospital. I am joined by members and leadership from the D.C. National Guard, from the West Virginia National Guard, United States Secret Service, Deputy Mayor Pia, Fire Chief Donnelly, and Metro's General Manager Randy Clark. And we join with the FBI Director in ensuring that MPD investigates, the U.S. Attorney prosecutes this case to the fullest extent of the law. I've had the opportunity to brief U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was speaking to the president when I called, as well as the United States Attorney Pirro, who assured me that this case will have her office's complete attention.
Mayor, was there any other suspect?
Chief.
Sure. So no, at this time, there's no indication that there was any other suspect. The one suspect that was involved in this incident, they were shot during the interaction, and they were transported to the hospital for treatment.
Mayor, does this validate the need for the National Guard here in D.C.?
What we know, Andrea, is that this is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
One of the other things is right now, and I'm trying to get confirmation on this, is there's been conflicting reports now for several hours that the two National Guard members that were shot this afternoon in what appeared to be a targeted attack near the White House were dead. I'm being told now through sources it's critical condition. You may have just heard a moment ago in the NBC report they said they had died. CNN at the moment is reporting as well that they are still in critical condition. So we're going to, again, and this is different people are saying different things. I will always tell you if I don't know, and I'm telling you the latest I have. So let me give you a recap quickly of what we now know at this moment. 2 members of the West Virginia National Guardsmen were shot in D.C. I've been told they are in critical condition. The D.C. mayor described the attack as a targeted shooting. We're now being told it's being investigated as a terrorist attack and that the individual, the shooter, is an Afghan national. The guardsmen were performing, quote, high-visibility patrols when they were shot, according to police officers, and who added the suspected shooter was subdued and taken into custody. We're also being told that the 2 guardsmen were apparently shot in the head. Meanwhile, President Trump has asked for 500 more National Guard troops to be deployed to Washington, D.C. following the shooting. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has confirmed that as well. Eyewitnesses say they saw first aid being administered to the 2 wounded National Guard members. A D.C. resident, Michael Ryan, said he was headed to lunch in the area when he came across the scene shortly after the shooting and saw a National Guardsman wounded. They were giving him first aid, trying to resuscitate him, he told reporters. Ryan said he saw law enforcement had a man pinned on the ground and were yelling at him not to get up. Ryan told CNN he had initially thought the gunshots were construction noises. We walked back and I saw broken glass at the bus stop, and then that's when we heard people yelling to stay down. He said that he's upset about the shooting. It's terrible to see this happen in the city that I grew up in. Terrible to see a National Guard member that were involved with this and apparently were seriously hurt. So there is a lot more here that is coming out, but this is the latest that we have on this. Also, former President Joe Biden condemning the shooting, saying violence of any kind is unacceptable, and we must all stand united against it, saying Jill and I are heartbroken that 2 members of the National Guard were shot outside the White House. We are praying for the service members and for their families. We also know that we are hearing from the New York Police Commissioner saying the police department is praying for the National Guardsmen impacted today in the shooting in D.C., while adding that there is no link between the incident and her city currently that we know. So there, again, this is what is looking like an act of terrorism and being looked at that way that could obviously change moving forward. So I want to give you this update so you know exactly what is happening right now. We will keep you updated throughout the show. But again, the shooting is being investigated as a possible act of terrorism. And the man that's been identified as an Afghan national, law enforcement officials are still trying to confirm all of the person's details. That's what we have now. I'll keep you updated, I promise, throughout the show this evening. We'll take a quick break. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, in all the time I've been supporting Pure Talk, my wireless company, I can honestly say I've never seen an offer like this from them before. Listen to this. Unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data with a 30-gig hotspot. Just $29.95 a month for life. Friends, this is Pure Talk's top-tier plan, normally $65 a month. Now through December 7th, that's it. Just $29.95 a month. You're saving over 50% a month every month for life. Yes, that's on their crazy fast 5G network. But this offer is extremely short-lived. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's Levin for Pure Talk's best unlimited plan. Just $29.95 a month for life. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Keep your phone, keep your number, and start saving with unlimited for life for just $29.95 a month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my wireless company, Pure Talk. Taxes and fees not included. Some restrictions apply. See puretalk.com for details. Offer ends December 7, 2025.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Nice to have you with us. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. And you can also send me your comments if you'd like to on X at Ben Ferguson Show on X. If you're on Instagram, Ben Ferguson Podcast, a little bit different there. I want to really take a step back from this attack in Washington, D.C. and put it in context. This attack comes just days after, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 prominent Senate and House Democrats ambiguously claimed in a video that President Trump was forcing the military to break the law. You then have Senator Slocum, a Democrat on the Armed Service Committee, go on ABC this week. And I want you to listen to what Slocum said in her own words, about the National Guard.
Look at these videos coming out of places like Chicago. It makes me incredibly nervous that we're about to see people in law enforcement, people in uniform military get nervous, get stressed, shoot at American civilians. It is a very, very stressful situation for these law enforcement and for the communities on the ground. So it was basically a warning to say, like, if you're asked to do something, particularly against American citizens.
She's in the video, and you have Senator Slocum just a few days ago claiming that the National Guard was in essence about to start shooting at American civilians. That is a psychotic and deranged and dangerous lie. And now you have not one, but 2 National Guard troops that were shot in Washington, D.C. I had a friend of mine a moment ago that sent me an image of one of the guardsmen who was shot near the White House. The attack, again, coming just days after 6 prominent Senate and House Democrats claim that these men and women in uniform are somehow breaking the law. MSNBC, by the way, already defending the gunman. And this goes back to the propaganda of the media. Let me say this again. MSNBC is already defending the gunman who killed U.S. troops, or attacked, I should say, U.S. troops in critical condition on American soil. What did they say on MSNBC while they were reporting on this breaking news? Listen to their word choice.
But of course, you know, there's so much controversy happening in the United States right now with ICE, who are also wearing uniforms and wearing masks. And so there's, you don't know, people walking around with uniforms in an American city. There are some Americans that might object to that. And so apparently this shooting has happened.
So apparently this shooting has happened. So they're defending the gunman who went after these 2 guardsmen, saying, quote, people are walking around with uniforms in an American city. There are some Americans that might object to that. And so apparently this shooting has happened. Oh, so you're just saying it's okay to shoot people now, right? I guess that's just how this works. We'll just say, yeah, no problem here. Like, let's just let it happen. The president made the right decision. President asked Pete Hegseth to add 500 additional National Guardsmen to Washington, D.C. That's what leaders do. While the radical left going insane. 1-877-381-3811. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. We'll be right back.
You know, in all the time I've been supporting Pure Talk, my wireless company, I can honestly say I've never seen an offer like this from them before. Listen to this. Unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data with a 30-gig hotspot. Just $29.95 a month for life. Friends, this is Pure Talk's top-tier plan, normally $65 a month. Now through December 7th, that's it. Just $29.95 a month. You're saving over 50% a month every month for life. Yes, that's on their crazy fast 5G network. But this offer is extremely short-lived. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's Levin for Pure Talk's best unlimited plan. Just $29.95 a month for life. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Keep your phone, keep your number, and start saving with unlimited for life for just $29.95 a month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/LEVIN to switch to my wireless company, Pure Talk. Taxes and fees not included. Some restrictions apply. See puretalk.com for details. Offer ends December 7, 2025.
The only constitutional lawyer you can see today for free. No appointment necessary. Just call him at 877-381-3811.
All right, welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. I want to get you an update on the shooting that has happened in Washington, D.C. against the two National Guardsmen. We are now being told that the individual that came into this country, who was the shooter apparently, is an illegal immigrant, an Afghan national who came into the U.S. in 2021 during the withdrawal, ID'd as the alleged gunman in the shooting of two National Guard members. This now coming from the New York Post, who is saying this. And I'm going to go through this, but the crazed gunman who shot two National Guard troops in the ambush attack near the White House Wednesday has been identified as a 29-year-old Afghan national who came to the U.S. during the chaotic 2021 Afghanistan withdrawal. Law enforcement sources are telling now the New York Post. The individual was allegedly lying in wait before he rounded the corner near the Farragut West metro station. And what's scary about this, I have gone out of this metro station hundreds of times, this exact entrance, when I was going to the White House back during the Bush administration. This is right next to the White House. I want you to understand the proximity to this. We now know that he came to the U.S. during the chaotic Afghan withdrawal. He was waiting there around the corner near the Farragut West metro station at 2:15. He then opened fire, striking a female guard in the chest, we're now being told, before shooting her in the head. This according to law enforcement sources. So we now know, we're being told this was a female guardsperson as one of the two injured. That is different. We were told earlier it was two men. We know that the man entered the country under Operation Allies Welcome and resettled in Bellingham, Washington, then allegedly fired at and struck the second guard until a third guard stationed nearby rushed to the area and took him down, sources are saying. The two armed soldiers who were patrolling the streets when the suspect launched the vicious rampage were taken to nearby hospitals in critical condition. The suspect, who was reportedly shot 4 times, was hauled away nearly naked in an ambulance and acted alone. Police have not revealed a motive for the attack, and law enforcement sources said the FBI is initially treating the shooting as a potential act of terrorism. The D.C. mayor told reporters it was a targeted shooting in which one individual appeared to target these guardsmen. The shooting described as an ambush, erupting again there at the Farragut Square in Northwest D.C., right next to retail and restaurants and the White House. President Trump, J.D. Vance, the vice president, were both not in D.C. at the time of the shooting, with Trump in Florida, Vance visiting troops in Kentucky. Trump has now ordered 500 National Guards troops to be sent to Washington, D.C. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our city, is what the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, said to reporters as he was taking questions. I want you to hear exactly what Pete Hegseth had to say. If you missed this earlier, this is Pete Hegseth saying, I'm sending 500 additional National Guardsmen to Washington, D.C. Listen carefully.
Very productive meetings, but I want to start by saying after those meetings, myself and my team were notified that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C., critically wounded. The shooter shot in a cowardly, dastardly act targeting the best of America. Heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C., serve for people they don't know and they've never met because they love their country and their capital and their community. They were willing to do dangerous things others were not because they love their fellow Americans. Someone decided to turn that into targeting National Guardsmen. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down. President Trump will never back down. That's why the American people elected him. America and our warriors, our National Guardsmen, are strong. And so we're following this very closely. We're getting information rapidly. And I mentioned the faith of this country, the Christian faith, the prayers. I would ask for prayers for our National Guardsmen.
Excuse me, Mr. P.
Appeals to heaven for our National Guardsmen, for their families, on bended knee as a War Department, as a nation.
Excuse me.
We will never back down. And we think about them right now.
Venezuela.
So you can hear Pete Hegseth saying we're going to add the 500 additional National Guardsmen to Washington, D.C. We will never back down. We're also getting reporting now that the White House is saying that this is going to be investigated, it looks like, as a terrorist act. We also have seen a drop in crime that's been historic in D.C. because these National Guard members. The increase in safety and security has been historic. There were approximately 2,100 National Guard troops assigned to D.C., including about 900 from the D.C. National Guard and roughly 1,200 from other states. Last week, a federal judge ordered the Trump administration to withdraw the National Guard from D.C., but paused that order from going into effect until December 11th to give time for an appeal. That has obviously happened. Now, I go back to the timing of this. This is all about the men and women who just came out and attacked our men and women in uniform and came out and talked about law enforcement saying you should defy the President of the United States of America and that you might be doing illegal things. And that turned them into public enemies and inspires crazies the same way when they come out attacking ICE members. What do? What do they do when ICE members get shot at? It's because they dehumanize them and attack them verbally beforehand. That is what Democrats do. Now, the D.C. National Guard shooter has been identified. I don't want to say the individual's name. It's out there. You can find on social media. What does matter is a 29-year-old Afghan national who entered the U.S. in 2021, the chaotic exit of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a country where 99% of the population, by the way, supports Sharia law. And 39% believe suicide bombings are justified. And we decided it would be a good idea to let a whole bunch of unvetted Afghan nationals into the country. Why on earth would you do that? He entered, and this was someone that should have never been in America. Because Joe Biden decided, oh yeah, we'll let a bunch of these guys in. We also are being told that not only did he enter in 2021 under Joe Biden, but he allegedly was screaming what we all know when there's terrorist attacks that happen, Allah Akbar, during the attack. The National Guard shooter being identified entered the country under the Biden Operation Allies Welcome. And now we're being told he overstayed his visa. So we didn't vet him. We let him in. He entered the country under Joe Biden's Operation Allies Welcome, overstayed his visa, and now is going around killing or shooting our National Guardsmen. Here's a little bit more of this from Fox News.
We've seen a difference in Washington, D.C. Crime is down
hold on,
significantly.
Chairman, hold on. We just got this. I need to get to it. This just in, sources are telling Fox News that the shooter is an illegal immigrant from Afghanistan who came in during Operation Allies Welcome under the Biden administration, and he overstayed that visa. All right, Chairman, so Fox News is learning that this person was here illegally, overstayed his visa, and that's who this shooter profile is. What's your immediate reaction?
Well, my immediate reaction is we tried desperately to get an accounting of all the people that came from Afghanistan to the United States during that disastrous withdrawal during the Biden administration. That was a huge priority for the House Oversight Committee. We never got that information. We were never allowed to get that information because I don't think the government had any idea. I don't think they kept an accurate accounting. And if they did, I think they realized there were probably lots of gaps. We were told there were going to be about 2,000 people that had worked with our military as people that tried to help with the cause, to help protect our troops in Afghanistan. Right. But then at the end of the day, there were closer to 100,000. But we don't know what that number was, and I don't think the government has kept good track of it, and I'm sure there were mistakes that were made.
You listen to what you just heard there. There were mistakes that were made. That's pretty obvious. There were mistakes that were made. And they didn't care because they said, oh, this is a good thing, right? This terrorist, and that's what he is, okay? This is a terrorist who we welcomed and overstayed his visa. That's what people need to understand about this. Everybody pay attention to what has happened here.
We've seen a difference in Washington, D.C.
I go back to James Comer, like what he's saying there. He's absolutely right. This National Guard shooter has been identified as an Afghan national who came to this country, was in the United States illegally, overstayed his visa. No one should be surprised by this. It's almost predictable at this point. By the way, all the information I just put up there on X. So if you want to retweet it so people can see this, follow me on Twitter at Ben Ferguson Show on Twitter, and you can share what I just played for you there. We'll take a quick break. We'll come right back. It is Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. More coming up.
Mark Levin.
You know, in all the time I've been supporting Pure Talk, my wireless company, I can honestly say I've never seen an offer like this from them before. Listen to this. Unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data with a 30-gig hotspot. Just $29.95 a month for life. Friends, this is Pure Talk's top-tier plan, normally $65 a month. Now through December 7th, that's it. Just $29.95 a month. You're saving over 50% a month every month for life. Yes, that's on their crazy fast 5G network. But this offer is extremely short-lived. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's Levin for Pure Talk's best unlimited plan. Just $29.95 a month for life. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Keep your phone, keep your number, and start saving with unlimited for life for just $29.95 a month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my wireless company, Pure Talk. Taxes and fees not included. Some restrictions apply. See puretalk.com for details. Offer ends December 7, 2025.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. It's nice to have you with us. By the way, all the audio I'm playing for you, I'm putting it up on social media as we speak on X, Ben Ferguson Show. You can follow me there, and you can share this with the world because everyone needs to know what we're talking about right now and what we're explaining. Let me be very clear what I am saying tonight. It is time to shut it all down. People that are coming in that we're not vetting, that we don't know who they are from around the world, we need to shut it down. Why do I say that? Because the suspected D.C. National Guard shooter has been identified as an Afghan illegal alien who entered the U.S. in 2021 under the Biden administration. I want you to hear this latest from Fox News Channel about what we know about the shooter and how he came into this country. And I'll say it again, shut it all down now. Listen.
This is a Fox News alert. Two National Guardsmen in critical condition tonight after being shot in a targeted attack just blocks from the White House. The lone suspect is in custody. Sources telling Fox News that the gunman is an Afghan national who was let in under Biden and then overstayed his visa. And this is in just moments ago. The suspect apparently waited for the guardsman to come around the corner, then opened fire. He shot a female guard in the chest, then walked up, took her firearm, and shot her point blank in the head. He took her weapon and fired at other guard members, hitting one in the neck before a third guardsman engaged him and brought him down. Let's go live now to West Palm Beach, where Fox's Dana Marie McNichol is standing by. Dana Marie, what has the reaction been from the White House tonight?
Hi, Jason. Good evening. Although President Trump is here in Florida, the White House went on lockdown immediately after that shooting happened. We know that the president was quickly briefed, and then he posted on Truth Social updates. He shared the suspect who shot the two National Guard members is severely wounded and will, quote, pay a very steep price. He wrote, God bless our great National Guard and all our military and law enforcement. They are truly great people. We know Senator Chuck Schumer, he posted on X, he's closely monitoring the situation and thanking first responders for quickly capturing the suspect that Fox News just confirmed is an Afghan national who came into the United States during Operation Allies Welcome in 2021 under the Biden administration. Now, law enforcement sources say they believe the male suspect acted alone in a targeted attack. Now, hundreds of National Guard troops have been in Washington since August, and earlier this month, President Trump ordered their deployment to be extended in the city until at least through February of next year. And tonight, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, said that Trump ordered an additional 500 troops to be deployed in D.C. Now, as the news of the shooting broke, Vice President J.D. Vance, he was addressing service members at Fort Campbell in Kentucky ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. He asked for prayers for the two West Virginia National Guard members who are in critical condition tonight. And Jason, you just shared those gruesome details of how the shooting played out just blocks away from the White House. Now, the president is not expected to address this shooting on camera tonight, but tomorrow does have a scheduled call over the phone with service members. So, of course, we'll be bringing you those remarks.
So again, we're hearing that the president is not going to make a public statement on camera tonight. But what we do know is this man entered the U.S. in 2021 under the Biden administration. He was in the country illegally. He entered on 9/8 of 2021 during Operation Allies Welcome and overstayed his visa. I also will go back to another basic point. This is exactly why I'm in favor of the death penalty. This Afghan individual should have never been in America. He should have never been allowed to come in with the lack of vetting. He entered the U.S. and then overstayed, yelling Allah Akbar while he did the shooting. By the way, if you want to know who to blame for this tonight, this is on the Biden administration. This is on the Democratic Party. They allowed millions of people to come into this country illegally. Millions. This is a Democratic policy. It's pretty clear. Joe Biden did that. He has been identified. He entered in 2021 under Biden's open border policy. You want to know who did this? This is Joe Biden. I don't know any other way to put it. This is Joe Biden. I want to get to your phone calls. 1-800 or 1-877-381-3811, 1-877-381-3811. We'll get your phone calls in here and see what you think about this. I am beyond frustrated because when you have this type of lawlessness and every single person in America that supports illegal immigrants in any way needs to completely rethink their position after what we are witnessing yet again. Sanctuary cities are fighting like the devil to keep them, to protect them. And this is the problem. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one. If you want to see all the details I just gave you, I just put up on social media. Follow me on at Ben Ferguson Show on X, on Instagram, Ben Ferguson Podcast. And grab my podcast, the Ben Ferguson Podcast, and listen every day to that as well. Hour 3 coming up.
He's here. Now, Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome, Hour 3, Mark Levin Show. It is nice to have you with us, as we've got a lot to talk about, including a shooting that happened in Washington, D.C., against two of our National Guardsmen. I want to open by talking about what happened in D.C. You have two National Guardsmen that were ambushed. We now know it was because of an Afghan national. We know that the Afghan national came into the U.S. in 2021 in our withdrawal from Afghanistan. We know that the individual, the alleged terrorist gunman who shot the two National Guard members, overstayed his visa. The crazed gunman shooting those two National Guardsmen in an ambush near the White House is a 29-year-old Afghan national who came during the chaotic 2021 Afghan withdrawal. He was lying in wait before he rounded the corner near the Farragut West metro station, opened fire, striking a female guard in the chest before deliberately trying to execute her, shooting her in the head, according to law enforcement sources. The man entered the country under Operation Allies. That would be Joe Biden. You know, because he never met an illegal immigrant. He didn't say, come to America. He, quote, resettled in Bellingham, Washington. He fired at and struck the second guard after shooting the first in the head. A third guard stationed nearby rushed the area and took him down. The two armed soldiers who were patrolling the streets when the suspect launched his vicious rampage were taken to nearby hospitals in critical condition at the time. The suspect was reportedly shot 4 times. What was he saying when he was shooting? Allah Akbar. Some things never change in these terrorist attacks. Law enforcement sources to the FBI is initially treating the shooting as a potential act of terrorism. But why did this happen, and how did we get here yet again? I'm going to tell you. I think it's because, yet again, we are witnessing the dehumanization of our men and women in uniform. Yet again, we are watching Democrats dehumanize our men and women who protect and defend. Over and over again, we are witnessing this happen. When Fox News Channel broke the news, you had them telling the story and in shock about how we got to this point. And this is just days after 6 Democratic lawmakers dehumanized our men and women in uniform, dehumanized the National Guard. And you wonder what could have motivated this individual. I want you to listen to the Fox report.
This is a Fox News alert. 2 National Guardsmen in critical condition tonight after being shot in a targeted attack just blocks from the White House. The lone suspect is in custody. Sources telling Fox News that the gunman is an Afghan national who was let in under Biden and then overstayed his visa. And this is in just moments ago. The suspect apparently waited for the guardsman to come around the corner, then opened fire. He shot a female guard in the chest, then walked up, took her firearm, and shot her point blank in the head. He took her weapon and fired at other guard members, hitting one in the neck before a third guardsman engaged him and brought him down. Let's go live now to West Palm Beach, where Fox's Dana Marie McNichol is standing by. Dana Marie, what has the reaction been from the White House tonight?
Hi, Jason. Good evening. Although President Trump is here in Florida, the White House went on lockdown immediately after that shooting happened. We know that the president was quickly briefed, and then he posted on Truth Social updates he shared the suspect who shot the two National Guard members is severely wounded and will, quote, pay a very steep price. He wrote, "God bless our great National Guard and all our military and law enforcement. They are truly great people." We know Senator Chuck Schumer, he posted on X, he's closely monitoring the situation and thanking first responders for quickly capturing the suspect that Fox News just confirmed is an Afghan national who came into the United States during Operation Allies Welcome in 2021 under the Biden administration. Now, law enforcement sources say they believe the male suspect acted alone in a targeted attack. Now, hundreds of National Guard troops have been in Washington since August, and earlier this month, President Trump ordered their deployment to be extended in the city until at least through February of next year. And tonight, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, said that Trump ordered an additional 500 troops to be deployed in D.C. Now, as the news of the shooting broke, Vice President J.D. Vance, he was addressing service members at Fort Campbell in Kentucky ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. He asked for prayers for the two West Virginia National Guard members who are in critical condition tonight. And Dacian, you just shared those gruesome details of how this shooting played out just blocks away from the White House. Now, the president is not expected to address this shooting on camera tonight, but tomorrow does have a scheduled call over the phone with service members. So, of course, we'll be bringing you those remarks.
Just think about everything you just heard there and then go back to this question. And the question that all of you should be asking yourself is, how did we get to a point where this is now the new norm? It's not just the shooting of the National Guardsmen. It's the attacking of ICE agents. Multiple ICE agents have been shot. Multiple innocent people have been killed while they were targeting ICE agents. This is consistent over and over and over again. The dehumanizing of our men and women in law enforcement over and over and over again. Why is the left doing this? Because they don't mind it when these people get shot. They don't mind it when they get killed. And if you stand up and say the truth about this, that you don't want these people coming into our country, there's like, oh, that's Islamophobic, and you can't say that. I'm sorry. This person should have never been let into this country. This person should have never been allowed to come in without being vetted. And when you have an Islamic war cry going out, Allah Akbar, by a 29-year-old Afghan illegal immigrant who opened fire on U.S. Guardsmen just 2 miles from the White House, brought here in 2021 by Joe Biden. Multiple law enforcement sources and eyewitnesses confirmed the shooter. The Afghan national screamed Allah Akbar while attacking 3 D.C. National Guardsmen near the Capitol. Witnesses described the chilling jihadist indicators. Islamic beard, a hallmark of religious jihadists. Repeated shouts of Allah Akbar, the signature war cry used in nearly every major jihadist attack worldwide. And of course, the media is going to want to tell you and downplay this and not give you the story and say it was random or it was senseless or that we, some sort of gun violence, so we need more gun control. They're going to tell you all of those things. They're not going to tell you this is a failed U.S. policy. They're not going to tell you that Joe Biden let this person in. They're not going to tell you that the person overstayed his visa. They're not going to tell you that he believes that we are the infidels and we must be killed. That's what jihadists believe for more than, over 1,000 years. There were red flags here. Why were they all ignored? Allah Akbar, by the way, it's never a coincidence. Allah Akbar means Allah's great. Not great, the greatest, right? Greater than God, greater than your laws, greater than your country, greater than your life. It's tied directly to Islamic conquest theology. It appears alongside the Quran, 933, which commands Islam to triumph over all other faiths in this country and in the world. It's been the shouting battle cry in nearly every major jihadist attack, including the 9/11 hijackers, the Paris massacre, the Pulse nightclub in Orlando in 2016, the London Bridge attackers, the ISIS execution videos, the 2025 EasyJet hijack attempt. It's not a prayer. It's a psychological warfare. It's a battlefield signal meant to terrorize, intimidate, and sanctify the attack. When witnesses heard the D.C. shooter screaming at mid-firefight, they knew exactly what it meant. They knew it was a terrorist attack. They knew it was going to be someone that is Muslim. But they're going to say none of this on the news. They're going to make this go away so fast. The clear connection between these attacks over and over again is obvious. Whether it was Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, whether it was al-Baghdadi, whether it was Taliban enforcers, whether it's radicalized European jihadists, whether it's this guy here. What do you see consistently? The same exact things over and over and over again. And the Afghan connection and the warning that Washington ignored is obvious. Biden's catastrophic 2021 Kabul withdrawal, more than 80,000 Afghans were flown to the U.S. with incomplete vetting. That is a fact we know. The Department of Homeland Security later admitted that thousands had derogatory information. Those are their words, not mine. The Department of Homeland Security admitted that thousands of the 80,000 that were let in had, quote, derogatory information, including possible terror ties. Afghanistan remains one of the world's most intense jihadist incubators. The Taliban, the ISIS-K, openly endorsed attacks on the West. Biden brought them in anyway. Our guardsmen, they're heroes. But what are they being treated like? Villains now by our own Democratic Party. One guardsman, by the way, was airlifted in critical condition after taking rounds meant to kill him. And what do the jihadists do? They seek to destroy. I will say it right now. I want a full release of the suspect's background. I want any watch list that he was hit on or on. I want all the immigration and vetting history. I want his mosque affiliations. I want online radicalization information. I want all of the government failure points. And by the way, I do want Joe Biden and his administration to be held responsible and accountable for this attack. And this attack is not an anomaly. By the way, it is a symptom. It's not an anomaly at all. Pray for the guardsmen, most importantly. But we also need to demand answers. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You want to talk about cause and effect? Here's another example of cause and effect of what has happened against our National Guardsmen. And this makes me extremely angry. Did you know that in America, as we speak, there are billboards that have been purchased? Billboards that are up, urging National Guardsmen to refuse orders from the Trump administration. And these have spouted up organically, they want you to believe, around the country. This clearly is tied to the start of all of this by the Democrats in Congress that said you can refuse orders from the president. A left-wing group, we now can confirm, is putting up billboards in high-crime cities where President Donald Trump has deployed the National Guard, telling military service members that is not what they signed up for, quote unquote. This is not what they signed up for. And encouraging them to, quote, refuse unlawful orders, even though they're not even describing any unlawful orders that have been given by the president. Win Without War is the name of the group. Remember it. Let's make them famous. The Win Without War group is a self-described, quote, diverse network of activists and national organizations working for progressive foreign policy. They have now launched their billboard campaign in Washington, D.C. Then they expanded it to Chicago, to Memphis, and the military bases of Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. This is the radical left. One of the billboards even asks, did you go airborne just to pull security for ICE? ? Before directing people to a website called notwhatyoussignedup.org. The billboards encouraging the military members to dissent against leadership are now beginning to appear. One billboard near Fort Bragg showing our men and women in uniform, our National Guardsmen, on the streets of a major city and directing the service members to that website. The website instructs service members to get Win Without War's resources on their personal devices using Proton Mail, Signal, and a virtual private network known as a VPN for encrypted access. The resources include veteran legal organizations aimed at sharing guidance on refusing what they describe as illegal orders. All of this goes back to the Democrats and the video they put out, which is now clearly putting service members' lives at risk, in danger, especially after the attack we've just witnessed in Washington, D.C. And what did those Democratic members of Congress say?
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly. Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy. Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk. This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army, or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution, and who we
are. If you don't think that that video is connected to the shooting in D.C., you're an idiot. If you don't think that video is connected to these billboards that are popping up around the country, you are an idiot. If you don't think this website instructing service members to Win Without War resources on their personal devices using encryption is directly trying to overthrow our U.S. government and our president and his orders, you're an idiot. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the most passionate conservative on radio. Talk with him now at 877-381-3811.
All right, welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. If you just joined us, we're talking about billboards popping up all over the country, giving guidance, telling men and women in uniform to stop doing their jobs. These resources include veteran legal organizations, they say, will give you guidance on refusing the orders. Social media users, by the way, drew similarities from the billboards to the recent video made by the Democratic senators and representatives telling the service members to refuse illegal orders from the Trump administration. The reason why I'm connecting these dots for you is so you understand. This is all being done by design. You look at the senator and her tweet, one of those in the video. We want to speak directly to members of the military and the intelligence community. The American people need you to stand up for our laws and our Constitution. Don't give up the ship. That is her exact words when she then put out the video, calling for, in essence, an overthrow of the will of the people. An October press release from this organization that I just told you about explains the static and mobile billboards were put up around the country following the, quote, unprecedented deployment of the National Guard into cities. Again, this is demonizing and dehumanizing the National Guard. One of the signs in Memphis, my hometown, reads, Tennessee Army National Guard. You joined to serve your community. So what are you doing in Memphis? ? You look at this shooting in D.C., when this gunman opened fire on the National Guardsmen from West Virginia near the White House, leaving them critically wounded. The president had it right when he said the animal that shot the 2 National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded and now in 2 separate hospitals, is also severely wounded, but regardless will pay a very steep price. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people, he says. I, as President of the United States of America, and everyone associated with this office of the presidency, am with you. God bless our National Guardmen, but this is being done on purpose. This is to dehumanize. Which brings me to another story that goes right along with what I just told you. In Virginia, not far from Washington, D.C., a high school assistant principal and a brother have been accused of plotting to murder ICE agents. A pair of brothers, one of whom is an assistant principal at a Virginia high school, this is who's indoctrinating your kids, are now accused of plotting to murder Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. The Department of Homeland Security has now revealed. On November the 19th, law enforcement officials arrested John Wilson Bennett and Mark Booth Bennett, both American citizens, and charged the brothers with conspiracy to commit malicious wounding. According to DHS officials, the Virginia Beach Police Department. Virginia Beach, by the way, is right by Norfolk, right by our military base. So just understand how close this is to the military. The Virginia Beach Police Department launched an investigation into the Bennett brothers on November the 17th after an off-duty officer in Norfolk, Virginia, that is where, like, the USS Cole, for example, was repaired. It's where many of our men and women that train to land on aircraft carriers in our Navy train. At night, you can hear the F-18s or the F-22s practicing overhead. This off-duty officer in Norfolk, Virginia, overheard them, thank the Lord, discussing plans to allegedly kill police officers and ICE agents. Mark Bennett, in particular, allegedly discussed plans to meet with other anti-ICE activists in Las Vegas, Nevada, with whom he would purchase firearms. The plot allegedly involved using firearms with explosive rounds to kill as many agents as possible. It's chilling that a human being, much less a child educator, would plot to ambush and kill ICE law enforcement officers, offering such specifics as to getting a high-caliber rifle that would pierce law enforcement bulletproof vests, is what the Department of Homeland Security, Tricia McLaughlin, said in a statement, saying, quote, "Thanks to Homeland Security investigations and our partners, these men are behind bars. Our officers are facing a more than 1,150% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats while they risk their lives every single day to remove the worst of the worst, including murderers, rapists, child rapists, pedophiles, terrorists, and gang members. From bounties placed on their heads," that's right, there are now bounties placed on the heads of ICE agents, "to their murders, threats to their families, stalking, and doxing online. Our officers are experiencing an unprecedented level of violence and threats against them and their families." Mark Bennett, by the way, was arrested at the Norfolk International Airport, where he was scheduled to fly to Las Vegas to apparently do all the things he said he was going to do. John Bennett was arrested in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where he served as the assistant principal of Kempsville High School since 2009, indoctrinating your kids. The brothers' court hearings are scheduled at a later date. So take all of that and let's go back to the Democrats and their video that they put out. And tell me this isn't a rallying cry for violence against our men and women in uniform.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly. Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk. This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army, or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution, and who we
are. Here's my question about that video. I'm not sure that video is actually trying to target men and women in uniform to stop doing their jobs as much as it is maybe trying to inspire others to go after those men and women in uniform that are, in fact, doing their jobs. It's almost like it's a hit list. Here are the people that if they are doing their job, maybe you should target. Maybe you should go after them. It's almost like it's a enemies list instead of a solicitation to make you stop doing your job. I think the majority of the National Guardsmen, for example, in Memphis, that saw that billboard saying, "What are you doing?" Their response would be very clear. We're keeping people safe in the most dangerous city in America, the most deadly city in America, in Memphis. The same thing in Washington, D.C. or Chicago or anywhere else. I think that's what this actually boils down to. I think that's what this actually is. I think the majority of men and women in uniform in the National Guard know exactly what they're doing and why they are doing it. So you then have to ask yourself this question. With a combination of the billboards and the video and the radical left doing what they are doing, are they actually putting this out there for no other reason but to say, here are the bad guys? It is the CIA. It is the FBI. It is the Department of Justice. It is the men and women in uniform. It is law enforcement. It is ICE agents. It is the police. It's anyone that's enforcing our laws. Could it be that maybe this was meant to be a two-part video serving two purposes? Hey, if we grab a straggler in the military, great. But maybe we're trying to, I don't know, inspire people to go out and shoot ICE agents or shoot National Guard members in Washington, D.C., blocks away from the White House. You look at the 29-year-old Afghan who entered the United States of America under the Biden administration in 2021. He was reportedly allowed in with a visa. He overstayed it, and he yelled Allah Akbar during the attack days after the video I just played for you went viral. Do not tell me this is by accident. Do not tell me that this isn't orchestrated. Al Sharpton, by the way, getting in on the action on MSNBC, says it's President Trump's fault for the National Guardsmen being shot because he put them there. Two people that are fighting for their lives, guardsmen, that this president put there. Those of us who have been opposed to the president's policy show that we are not going to morally match him by going down to a level of insensitivity, he said. It just seems ironic to me that people who pardon people assaulting police officers are now talking about how they're going to uphold and look up to the people who were beaten on January the 6th. That's how shameless Al Sharpton and MSNBC was less than 3 hours after the attack. That is the rhetoric they were putting out. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All right, welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. It's so nice to have you on the program. And if you just joined us, we've got a lot we've been talking about, including the attack in Washington, D.C. I do want to get some of your phone calls. We've had so much breaking news tonight. So I want to make sure I get to some of your phone calls. 1-877-381-3811. I haven't said as much tonight, so if you're listening, and I'd love to keep up with you, please grab my podcast, the Ben Ferguson Podcast. You can listen in the mornings. I also do this really cool podcast called the 47 Morning Update. It is the big stories coming out of the White House every day. It's short, about 10 to 12 minutes long. And if you want to know what's happening at the White House every day, you can start your day with it. It's super fast and just filled with information. And if you've never tried it, try it. It's called the 47 Morning Update, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow me on social media. All right, let me get to your phone calls now. 1-877-381-3811. Let me go to Jerry in El Paso. Welcome. You are on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. Hello.
Hi, Ben. How are you?
Good, sir.
Okay, I have a couple of points here. First off, I want to give thanks to the National Guard and their service. They deserve a lot more respect than what people give them.
Amen to that.
As a former first sergeant in the National Guard, kudos to you. Hoorah. Second off, George Washington used the militia to put down an insurrection in 1794 that was tax-related.
Mm-hmm.
The Whiskey Rebellion, whiskey producers in Pennsylvania refused to pay taxes, which was a law that was made for revenue. So he was using the militia, which is equivalent today to the National Guard, to uphold the law. So the precedence is there for Donald Trump to use militia to protect citizens when there is a necessity where the civilian, or not the civilian, the local police and the state police cannot do the job. So there is a precedence there. Then third off, there is a law under Title 18, Chapter 115, subsection 2385, advocating overthrow of government, which, if they're displaying them billboards up there, somebody better look at that law and find out who's doing that, because that falls right in that law.
Well, and there's a certain point here where I think you have to hold people accountable for their actions, especially when they're as malicious as this. And stop acting like this isn't happening. It is happening. And it's happening at an alarming rate where people are getting shot, people are getting killed for just doing their job. That's all they're doing. They're doing their job. But when you dehumanize them and you desensitize people to this, and you turn them into the worst people in the world, and you turn them into this dog whistle to go kill them, it is incredibly terrifying. And it's something that people should be angered about. They should be furious about this, that is happening. And it's happening because of the left and Democrats who are saying, do it, do it, do it. And over again, they keep doing this time and time again. Jerry, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you. Let me go to Anna in Savannah, Georgia. Thanks for waiting. You're on the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson with you. Hi.
Hello, Ben. This is Anna from Savannah, Georgia. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, ma'am?
I am good. I'm loyal listener to Mark Levin, but also this is my second time of being honored to speak with you. I was originally calling in at the beginning of your show in response to the numbers, the data, the polls that came out in regards to younger, newly registered voters, teen 20-year-olds would prefer a socialist form of government. But as an educator, I received my bachelor's in education, and after having 23-year-old just graduated from college and did my best to prevent her from being indoctrinated, as at first there was a bit of resistance, and then a 20-year-old now beginning college, and they do not, in high school, they used to teach government, civics, and economics, and it's like the history is being erased in their mind. And in regards to, it ties into, this did not start until, I believe, with Obama. I don't know if it was like the mothership becoming more and more hungry, power, money, funding.
Well, it goes back to what I talked about in the first hour. You've got this data now that the majority of people under 40 are fine with a socialist winning the White House, want a socialist to win the White House. This is the fight that we are in for the future of this country. We are one election away from being a socialist nation. That's just the truth. And when you get socialists, you get this type of anarchy and dehumanizing of people and not respecting people and saying it's fine and you're justified in killing people. That's what happens in socialist countries. I'm out of time. God bless you guys. Have a great Thanksgiving. Keep up with me on social media. Follow me, Ben Ferguson Show on X, Ben Ferguson Podcast. Grab it wherever you can. God bless America. Keep our men and women safe.